r/ask Reddit. What fan theory do you 100% accept as true? Kevin from The Office was only pretending to be an idiot so that people wouldn't suspect that he was laundering money. Also, Ed Truck wasn't decapitated. Creed made that shit up on the spot and nobody questioned it for some bizarre reason considering Creed makes shit up all the time. I've always assumed Creed heard Ed Truck died and those words jumbled around in his beautiful brain until Ed Truck was decapitated by a truck. Decapitated. Whole big thing. We had a funeral for a bird. Andy's parents are in the middle of a divorce when the first Toy Story is taking place. The dad is definitely divorced or dead. The movie takes place as Andy's mom is moving to a smaller house and Andy finds replacement father figures in two toys that represent traditional male archetypes. Also, the entire conflict between Buzz and Woody plays out like a dad and stepdad fighting over custody of a child. Also, the entire conflict between Buzz and Woody plays out like a dad and stepdad fighting over custody of a child. Mind blown. Disney made a movie called Frozen, so that will now be the first thing that comes up when you Google Disney Frozen and not Walt's head in a freezer. Also explained Disney on Ice. Holy crap, now I'm woke to the truth. Anakin accidentally used the Force to make Padme fall in love with him. The romance element definitely looked stilted and forced in that movie. You're tearing me apart, Padme. That none of the monsters in Courage, the Cowardly Dog were real. They were just Courage's imagination since he's, you know, a dog. He lives in the middle of nowhere because he doesn't know anything beyond the house he lives in. Every visitor or passerby manifests as an evil monster because his dog brain sees them as a threat. Eustace and Muriel are caricatures of the real people who own Courage. Muriel isn't that sweet and Eustace isn't that mean. And that's why Satan is pictured as a cat. Che 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 che. The Dark Knight's Joker was a war veteran. Tell me more please. In The Dark Knight, the Joker has multiple lines that reference this. First off, his conversation with Harvey Dent in the hospital. A truck of soldiers, blown up and no one bats an eye was one of the things he told Dent. This seems strange to say. Second thing, Joker knows about interrogation techniques. As Batman smacks his head on the table in the police station, he tells him that you never start with the head. The victim gets all fuzzy. Seems like Joker has had his fair share of interrogations, maybe even as the interrogator himself. And lastly, Joker is proficient with lots of weapons, using RPGs and machine guns. This is why some people believe that this Joker has PTSD from his war services, and that's why he turned insane. The Dursleys were more evil because of living with a Horcrux. I like that one a lot too. But the one thing that gives me pause is the first chapter of the series where it shows Vernon going about his day. He seems to be as much of the person he was when Harry was grown, considering all those around him that were wearing robes to be maniacs and crazies. Definitely couldn't have improved their disposition, though. I always thought Petunia Dursley was a very well written character. Think of it this way, you're a kid and discover that your little sister is literally magic. She has special powers that you don't have and will never have. And while you have to carry on with your perfectly average, humdrum life and go to school to learn maths and geography, your sister gets to go on a magic train to magic school to learn how to fly on broomsticks and perform miracles. Petunia wants to be Lily. It's even in the books that she writes to Dumbledore as a child to try to convince him to let her attend Hogwarts. And when she's turned down, the only way she knows to deal with it is to try to convince herself and magical people are freaks and being normal is better. It makes perfect sense she'd marry someone like Vernon who mirrors her attitudes perfectly, and dote on Dudley because he's completely and utterly average. Teen Titans Go is just Beast Boys fanfiction. Given how terribly Terra treats him in TTG, I'm really hoping not. Is Beast Boy secretly a masochist? That the Blair Witch Project was not supernatural and that the two guys brought the girl out to the forest to kill her. What about that scene when they're running from the tent in the middle of the night and the girl is like, holy shit, what the duck is that? It is assumed she sees the witch. The directors said they actually planned to show the witch there, but they missed it on the shot. Yeah, that probably disproves it, but because it isn't in the shot, it could be that she was paranoid and thought she saw something. Maybe it's not the director's intent, but it still works. Han Solo knows full well that a parsec is unit of distance. He speaks as if it's a unit of time in order to test his potential clients and know how to posture with them. If they call him out on it, he can use the superior navigation system explanation. The Falcon's computer, L337's navlogs, is the best at navigating dangerous space-finding short hyperspace routes, and if they don't, then he knows that he can inexplicably quote a higher price without the client knowing any better. Either way, he knows more about what he's transporting, and he has two ways of raising his transport prices. The expanded universe explains it. It's not exactly alpha canon, but it makes sort of sense. The Kessel Run is a part of space filled with black holes. A faster ship can fly closer to the black holes without getting sucked in, so it can take a more direct route and travel a shorter distance to get through the region. But yet, it's hand-waving and retroactive continuity. The real reason is George Lucas didn't know what a parsec was. The Solo movie explains it, and it's almost exactly the same explanation, except it's a single black hole and a nebula rather than a black hole cluster. That Event Horizon is a documentary of when humans first discovered the warp. Where we're going we won't need eyes. We're leaving. Neo isn't the one in the Matrix. It's actually Smith. Neo was born outside in the real world, dies and is reborn at the end of the first movie. However, Agent Smith also died and was reborn within the Matrix. He refers to it in an epic monologue when he first encounters Neo in the second film. The one also has the power to rewrite the Matrix as he saw fit. Smith clearly displays this power once he is reborn, something that Neo never does. Neo only ever bends the rules, but he doesn't make the kinds of alterations that Smith does. Smith also calls the Oracle Mom when they meet in the third film. There are a bunch of other nuances, but I am at work and that's all I remember off the top of my head. One of the things that point towards this idea is the Oracle telling Neo he's not the one. She wasn't lying. She knew from the start it was Smith. But she says, maybe in another life though, and then Smith kills Neo, and Neo comes back to life as the one. When by and large left Earth, most humans were left behind. Oh, that's dark. What makes you think that's what happened? Edit CCU/Kirch. The first captain of the Axiom began service in 2105. By and large, his president acknowledges that the Earth's ecosystem was irreparably damaged in a secret message sent to the fleet in 2110. While it is possible BNL intended to save all humans, it is logistically unlikely they built enough spaceships for 7 billion plus people. Instead, I believe that the Wallies, which were wholly inadequate to the task of managing Earth's waste, we know there were even larger, more robust models on the actual starships, were designed to distract Earth's population while the wealthiest humans escaped to space. The truly troubling aspect of the story is that the Axiom was the only ship that made it back to Earth. No other ships landed. What happened to the other Starliners? It destroyed her. What they did, she was never right again. She wouldn't use magic, but she couldn't get rid of it. It turned her inward and drove her mad. It exploded out of her when she couldn't control it, and at times she was strange and dangerous. And Obscurial is an unstable, uncontrollable dark force that busts out and attacks, and then vanishes. Yeah, I think it's fair to say that one's not much of a stretch. Seems so. It would seem that her not being able to control her magic, her father getting into trouble, and the whole issue of wizards hiding their identities during and after that time all point towards this. The Winchester brothers' bad luck is due to all the mirrors they broke in the Bloody Mary episode. I like this. I have a theory about Sherlock's borderline obscenely tight clothing. Sherlock is an addict. What happens to addicts when they go on binges? They tend to do nothing but consume their drug of choice at the expense of eating, drinking, or sleeping. Consequently, they lose a lot of weight very rapidly. So, here's my theory. Mycroft finds Sherlock after one of his binges. He gets his brother cleaned up and buys him some new clothing. Given the choice, do you really think Sherlock would choose to dress himself almost exclusively in suits and button-down shirts? This is a man who literally wore a bedsheet to Buckingham Palace. He doesn't care what his clothes look like, but Mycroft does. So Mycroft has custom shirts and suits tailored for Sherlock so that he at least looks presentable despite being nothing but skin and bones. Sherlock recovers from his drug binge, and he starts to regain the weight that he lost. But as he gains the weight, does he buy himself new clothing that fits appropriately? No, of course not. He just keeps wearing the clothes that Mycroft bought him without any regard for how they fit. As a result, Sherlock Holmes is constantly wearing button-down shirts that are curiously too tight for him, yet are still perfectly long enough for his arms and legs. Cool theory and very believable, but just thought I'd let you know. You wrote Microsoft about midway through the second paragraph. Gave me a laugh. I immediately imagined Bill Gates giving Sherlock Holmes clothes. Who dressed you? A massive, gangly nerd, actually. Whenever a FNAF theory gets popular, Cawthon adds a detail to the next game that invalidates the theory. At this point, it is the only valid idea. R2-D2 is the hero and ultimate focus of Star Wars, and they chickened out of making Jar Jar a Sith Lord. My friend has a theory that Yoda is piloting R2-D2 from the inside. Anytime you see them together, Yoda's using the Force. Also, my pet theory is that R2-D2 is always the one piloting the X-Wing. He just lets Luke think he's in control. Also, my pet theory is that R2-D2 is always the one piloting the X-Wing. He just lets Luke think he's in control. https://media. Jiffy. Com media L2JDUBO 0 L Roshksk no Jiffy. GIF. The Joker's superpower is timing. I've always liked this one, as well as the idea that Joker is aware of his status as a comic book character, or at least the existence of other Jokers from other universes, dimensions, timelines. He's so confident Batman won't kill him because in 999% of worlds he don't, ever. My favorite fan theory about the Joker, don't know where I heard it, is that he doesn't have any superpowers or ingenuity at all. He is just aware of the fact he's in a fictional universe. This drives him insane, and he does these over-the-top schemes to try and break his fictional reality. His obsession with Batman is due to the fact that Batman is clearly the protagonist of this whole charade, and he wants to tear him down by any means necessary. Not sure if this counts, but I think that Nick Carraway, the narrator in The Great Gatsby, is gay. His relationship with Jordan seems very much like a lavender marriage, where two gay people would get together for appearance's sake. Further, she is described as being physically very boyish and athletic. They never seem particularly into each other, either. Also, the scene after Nick and company get wasted with the crew in NYC, he seems to wake up with that one neighbor lady's husband. I think it's the neighbor of Tom's mistress's sister. There is also a theory that Gatsby was either black or Jewish. Personally, I lean toward him being Jewish. I've heard someone say that the streets he walks through in one scene were a gay hangout area in that time. I think the guy is the mistress sister's husband, and I think it was like he was suddenly in the guy's bedroom and the guy was lying in bed in his underwear showing him pictures he'd taken. It also could explain his idolizing Gatsby. Jetsons and Flintstones exist at the same time. The Flintstones are set in a post-apocalyptic future. There was a fallout that forced mankind to return people to the Stone Age. That's why everyone lives in a structured society with laws, knowledge and improvised technology. And up in the sky another society lives, the one in which the Jetsons are set. Everyone lives in high towers with no clue what's under them. Just like the movie Elysium. That Dale knew all along his wife was having an affair, but just doesn't do anything because he's too settled and too laid back to care. Edit. King of the Hill. I don't think he's too laid back to care. I think he's too in love with his wife and Joseph and the idea of having a beautiful wife and a star athlete son to get too hung up on the details, even if to the rest of us they would be pretty big details. I'm pretty sure they address this in one episode. John and Nancy are getting kind of flagrant with it, and Hank feels he needs to break the truth to Dale, but Dale sort of stops him before he gets the chance, implying that he's not stupid, but still feels loved by Nancy and Joseph and doesn't want to leave that behind. I'm pretty sure I remember this. I think they were at a Mexican restaurant, and then Dale gets up to dance with Nancy, leaving Hank to ponder. Edit. U/Project Shave has this to say about that. I don't think this is right. There's an episode called Nancy Boys where the two couples go to an Italian restaurant. This is where Redcon finally breaks it off with Nancy. Dale never figures it out. I think they're right. Scoot on down to their comment and give them an upvote. That Rick and Franz on The Walking Dead are slowly losing their hearing due to having to constantly hear gunfire and bombs and the like without any sort of earplugs or anything. So, basically they're doing a bit from Archer. Toby was the Scranton Strangler. I stopped watching The Office as it was released when Michael Scott left. A coworker who continued to watch told me that the finale revealed Toby to be the Scranton Stranger, and I 100% believed him. Years later I was watching through the series again, determined to finish the whole thing. The entire series I was gathering the evidence about Toby being the Strangler. During the finale I was so psyched to see the big reveal. 5 minutes left. Man, this is going to be a last minute bombshell. 3 minutes. 1. End credits. Oh, it's over. I held on to my belief till the moment that Netflix was done playing the episode and recommended something new. I was so disappointed. I confronted my co-worker who found it uproariously hilarious that I had believed him for so long. Toby is the Scranton Strangler. SpongeBob takes place underneath Bikini Atoll, a former nuclear testing site. Wasn't it officially confirmed somewhere? All the Legend of Zelda games are retellings of the same story, an oral tradition that has been slightly changed multiple times and is being explained by a different narrator each time. I've seen the official timeline, but the fan theory is better. Imo. Ferris Bueller isn't a real person but rather an idealized person dreamt up by Cameron as he deals with issues in his own life. The best part about this theory is that it implies Cameron is such a boring person that the movie abandons him at a certain point just to follow up on his imaginary friend's life. That's fun to think about, except for all the scenes that revolve around the Bueller household. That would mean Cameron's imagination is creating an entire family in a nearby neighborhood. Bran calls the Mad King to go insane also. The planet Westeros is on his going back and forth between two suns at it. Thanks Cubemster for telling me GRRM punctured the second theory. Oh well. The second one has been confirmed by word of God to not be true. GRRM has confirmed that the strange seasonal patterns are just the result of magic. Like that Simpsons where Xena is being quizzed by nerds and says everything that doesn't make sense, it's because of wizards. The reason why Lilo has to give Pudge the fish a sandwich is because Pudge controls the weather. Lilo's parents died in a car accident when they went out in the rain. If Pudge does not get his peanut butter, the cost will be paid in blood. When Snape dies and tells Harry to look at him, it had nothing to do with Harry. Snape wanted the last thing he saw to be Lily's eyes edit. I didn't realize this had been confirmed. Yes, I know it's an obvious one. You can stop commenting and telling me it's not a theory. Not really a fan theory in the sense that it's extremely obvious. Fan theories are shit like the whole series is Harry's fantasy from the cupboard. The look at me moment is the most J.K. Rowling can say without saying Snape wanted to see Lily's eyes one last time. And if that weren't obvious enough, they had Alan Rickman say you have your mother's eyes right before he dies. I like to think that all zombie movies are happening in the same timeline and just show how people from different parts of the world are facing it. Bug attack on Buenos Aires was a false flag. I don't know about false flag. I think it was a natural disaster that they conveniently blamed on the bugs half a freaking galaxy away. Like Lord Homunculus Churchill once said, never let a crisis go to waste. Michael Scott from The Office actually has undiagnosed autism. Michael Scott is a great salesman, the best that Dunder Mifflin has ever seen, and he cares for his friends. All that really matters to him is his friends. If you look at it starting from the episode where he's on a TV show as a kid, he says, I want a bunch of kids so that I'll have a bunch of friends that will never leave. That's literally all he tries to accomplish during the show. Get a bunch of friends. Or get a girlfriend wife so he can have a bunch of kids so that he'll have a bunch of friends that will never leave. He will literally do anything for his friends. The Pixar Universe Theory, which links all the movies together in the same continuity, starting from The Good Dinosaur. P.S. Forgot The Good Dinosaur. Thanks for the reminder. U/Tux1. In Pinky and the Brain, it is portrayed that Brain is the smart one, coming up plans, always scheming and the like, and Pinky is a flat out moron. But in reality, Pinky is the genius and Brain is the moron. Pinky follows Brain around, humoring him and making sure he doesn't do anything truly stupid. Also, the theme song lyrics are "One is a genius. The author is insane. Insane. Not stupid. A mouse thinking he can rule the world through a harebrained scheme is pretty insane." And, apparently, Pinky has corrected Brain's equations before, but I can't remember exactly when and where. James Bond is a code name. If that's the case, there are a lot of dumb criminals. Hey, Tony, take Mr. Bond here to his room UHH. Boss, weren't the last two guys also named Bond? Yep, and, well, they did try to kill you. Coincidence, Tony. Morty is Rick. This makes even more sense if you take into account the conversation that Rick and Morty have, where Rick talks about Morty's and his brainwaves cancelling each other out. In physics, in order for a pair of waves to completely cancel out, they need to be identical, with one of the waves on a delay with respect to the other one. The easiest way to get two identical waves is for them to be from the same source. I used to wear blue pants. The areas in Majora's Mask represent the stages of Grief Clock Town, Denial Woodfall, Anger Snowhead, Bargain in Great Bay, Depression Icana, Acceptance. Sterling Archer was bioengineered. That's why he's able to survive all the gunshots, stabbings, alcohol poisoning. Also why the question of who his father is was never resolved. Before Robb Stark died, he whispered his direwolf's name. I believe that when Robb was killed, he unknowingly warged into Grey Wind, which means Robb would be killed twice, once as a human and once as Grey Wind. It also gives new, darker meaning to his direwolf's head being sewed onto his body after his death. The whole DNA from mosquitoes thing in Jurassic Park is BS, and the dinos are actually full reconstructions based on living animals' DNA and scientific knowledge. That's why there are so many inaccuracies. They told the Mosquito in Amber story to make them seem authentic to the general public. I'm not sure I buy this one. The inaccuracies are already perfectly explained by big chunks of frog DNA. Pepe Sylvia equals Pennsylvania. I know they said no doesn't make sense. But the thing is, I don't care. Edit. For those who don't know, it's from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Sweet Bee has a heart attack. Edit 2. No, the writers explicitly said this was not the joke, or rather it was entirely unintentional. Proof from one of the writers. https://twitter.com/status/281899569766354944. Also, no one would write out Pennsylvania. They'd use PA instead. Plus Mac confirmed that Pepe Sylvia is a real person. We can all pretend that even though it's not mentioned, the name of the company has Pennsylvania in its title, and Mac was just saying it to shut Charlie up. But now we're just stretching and wishing. That wasn't the writer's intention. Full stop. Gonna have to stop you there. Not only do all those people exist, they've been asking for their mail on a daily basis. The passengers of the Axiom in Wally are unknowingly eating the remains of their deceased shipmates, since their short cruise turned into a 700-year space odyssey. Edit. Typed 7,000 not 700. Oops. I just sort of assumed they had robots farming, tending to animals on an unseen deck. We only saw so much of the ship. If anyone died, I sort of assumed they'd be used to help the agriculture, since soil only has so much in it. The island in Lost actually was purgatory, but the fans figured that out in season 1. So the creators denied and then spun the story out 6 seasons and introduced the idea of the incident creating another purgatory, so they could truthfully say it wasn't the island itself that was the purgatory. So they could be technically correct with a denial. R2-D2 and Chewbacca are actually old friends and are much more deeply involved in the rebellion than anyone knows except for Obi-Wan, Bail Organa and Yoda. They are quietly manipulating several of the events in A New Hope in order to get the Death Star plans to the rebels. http://fantheories. Wikia.com Wiki Star Wars. It actually helps to explain several weird things between the prequels and the original movies. In particular, why Obi-Wan doesn't seem to recognize either of them, despite the fact that he definitely knows R2 and should at least know of Chewie even if he never met him. Kevin from The Office is Jan Levinson's sperm donor, as he donates to the sperm bank consistently that Jan used to in vitro a stirred. The boy at the end isn't Forrest's kid. Jenny was just a horrible person who took advantage of Forrest after realizing he was a millionaire and she was dying of a terminal illness, AIDS. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.